So, here's a story for you. A military dictator who, get this, becomes a Democrat. A man accused of absolute tyranny who, at the same time, is credited with literally saving his nation. Today, we're going to dive deep into the incredible contradictions of one of modern Africa's most fascinating and consequential leaders, Ghana's own John Jerry Rawlings.
And really, this is the question that sits at the very heart of the Rawlings story. Was he a savior who dragged a failing nation back from the absolute brink? Or was he a tyrant who just trampled all over human rights to get what he wanted? It's a paradox. And let me tell you, there are no easy answers here.
To really understand the man, you have to understand the moment. So let's set the stage. Picture this. It's Ghana in the 1970s. The country is in a complete crisis, it's on its knees, and it's basically a powder keg just waiting for a spark.
I mean, just look at this. You can see the total breakdown in those queues for basic goods. The economy was in an absolute freefall. Corruption wasn't just a problem. It was like a daily tax on just trying to survive. And political instability, that was just the norm. For the average Ghanaian, the system wasn't just broken, it felt like it had completely abandoned them. This kind of desperation, well, it created the perfect conditions for someone to come in and do something radical.
And that radical intervention? It didn't come through a ballot box. No, it came from the barrel of a gun. This is when Rawlings, just a young Air Force flight lieutenant, bursts onto the political scene with a whole lot of force.
His path to power was, well, anything but a straight line. In June 1979, he leads his first coup, but then, and this is the wild part, just 3 months later, he hands power right back to a civilian government. It's a really surprising move. But by the end of 1981, he was convinced that all the old corruption was just creeping back in, so he seized power again. You see, this wasn't just some power grab. In his mind, it was the act of a man who truly believed only he could fix the problem. His mission, at least the one he stated, was crystal clear: to instill probity and accountability. He didn't frame his actions as a thirst for power, but as a necessary and, brutal housecleaning. In his mind, this was the only way to save Ghana from itself, and that idea became the justification for pretty much everything that came next.
Okay, but after years of ruling with an iron fist, the story takes its most unexpected turn yet. The strongman in the military khakis, he starts this transformation into a politician in a suit. And this, right here, is where the narrative gets really, really complicated. So let's just be clear about who we're dealing with up to this point, right? He is an authoritarian, a coup maker who rules by decree. That is the entire foundation of his power. But what he does next is what makes his legacy so incredibly complex. He basically traded the military boot for the ballot box. The same man who twice overthrew the government went on to introduce a new democratic constitution, legalize political parties, and then win 2 multi-party elections. It is an absolutely astonishing pivot from dictator to Democrat that almost no one saw coming. So because of these deep contradictions, the coup maker who becomes a Democrat, his legacy is one of the most fiercely debated in all of Africa. There's just no simple answer, and you'll find that Ghanaians themselves are still deeply divided on him. I mean, his legacy splits right down the middle. On one side, you've got the hero, the guy who restored stability, fought corruption, and pushed through these controversial but pretty effective economic reforms that really laid the groundwork for modern Ghana. But on the other side, you have the tyrant, the man remembered for executions of former leaders, some very serious human rights abuses, and what people called a culture of silence, where any kind of dissent was just crushed. And here's the thing, these aren't competing theories. They are 2 sides of the very same man. So why are we even talking about him today? Well, because his impact didn't just end when he left office. The echo of his actions is still shaping the present in a big way. Think about it. Today, Ghana is one of West Africa's most stable democracies, and that is, without a doubt, part of his legacy. But his story also forces this really difficult conversation that echoes all across the continent. When is a heavy hand ever justified? How much freedom can you sacrifice for the sake of stability? For better or for worse, the Ghana we see today was forged in the fire of his rule. Which of course brings us all the way back to that central paradox. Rawlings built a democracy, but he built it on an authoritarian foundation. He brought stability, but he did it through violence. And so his story leaves all of us with a timeless question, doesn't it? Can a leader's ends ever justify their means? There is no easy answer. And that right there is the core of his incredibly complicated legacy.